Hello? Hello? Question mark? Oh, hello. It's just you and me at the moment, mate. It is hot today. Betty, hello. Not really sure how much I'm going to achieve today, but I wanted to at least give it a go. It's so hot. So at least I've got my excuses in early for lack of productivity. Julian, hello. Apologies everyone for skipping last stream. Gregory, hello. Yep, no rush. In about 30 minutes, I don't think I would have gotten much done. Okay, right. Let a few more people roll in. Then we'll think about what our plan for the day is. Right. Okay. Plan for today is I want to refactor not necessarily the renderer itself, but more just like the machinery around it. Because the next goal, now that we've got a basic character controller, the next, and obviously it's not kind of tweakable, it's not wired into the UI, there's like a whole load of work done there. But I find in the streams, after I've done some big feature for a few streams, kind of keen to go and do something else. So I really want to get the gun attached to the player and move with that. So that's going to involve some sort of parent-child transform, which we've kind of already done for the physics, right? So if you look here at this, this is the entity. The entity owns a vector of rigid body handles, right? And we kind of handle those as we go along. But we also have a bunch of render entities, and these are kind of like not necessarily heavy objects, but they contain a whole bunch of state, right? But I think those should be handles. I think an entity really should just be, it's almost an ECS, right? An entity should just be a collection of handles and then some random state that goes along with it. So I think what I want to try and achieve today is to basically have this, say, render entity handle, and then everything still works the same. I'm not really sure how this is going to exactly reify itself, because at the moment, like, the physics system is a service, right, that we can access. So we might need some sort of global render entity store, right? So I'm not really sure. I think this is going to be one of those cases where we're just going to have to start writing code and figure out the bugs as we go along. But also, so I was having a wee look at this earlier. The renderer is interesting because the renderer per tick, right, per gbuffer pass, right, loops through all the entities and builds out this array of object data. But for static entities, right, this doesn't change. So we really need to also be able to differentiate between static entities and dynamic entities, and then build this once, right, and then just render it with a single draw call every time, and then have some way of marking it that is like dirty or needs updating if we do move it. So if we go into the level editor and we move stuff around, we want to rebuild that static array. But as the gameplay is running, the statics should stay the same. So we'll see if we get there as well. Which finger do I snap my fingers? Middle finger to index finger. Now I'm part of a gang. Okay, right. So let's. I've even got a branch for this. I've even pulled. So I think I need to check out main and pull it down. As you can see how unprepared I am for all this. I've got some rando changes that I don't really know what I'm doing with those yet. So let's pull this down. Okay, and then do new render refactor. And then pop that back. Okay, right. So now we're in a new branch. So let's. I guess the first question to ask ourselves is who owns the render entities, because it's quite obvious who owns the rigid bodies, right? It's the physics system. So if because basically this here has to be an alias in some class. Ideally, to keep in line with everything else, it'd probably be an alias within the owning class. So but we already have this for point lights, right? So the scene owns the point lights, which makes sense. Does the scene own all the render entities in a continuous array? It probably does. The scene is like, here is all the things that could be rendered, and here is the entities which define what is rendered. But the question then is like, how do I... But then the question is, how does... I suppose entity, I don't think, it's not unreasonable for the entity to store a pointer back to the owning scene, right? Which means it could then query through that, because we need to be able to resolve this, right? We have to give it the handle to get the pointer, optional ref to the object back. So entity could own a pointer back to scene or a reference. Well, actually, to be honest, eventually entity itself should be a handle, right? Do you know? So if we go back to main, where are our kind of coroutines? See, this takes a light handle. This takes a light handle. If we wanted to coroutine that updated an entity, like I think a really good use case of this be let's just run it, right? Let's just run this. I think when embarking on these biggish refactors, it's kind of important to have some notion of an end goal. Do you know what I mean? Like what do we consider done to look like? Because we could refactor till the cows come home, right? It doesn't actually get us. If it's not getting anything, it's just kind of gratuitous work. So obviously I've changed branch, so that's changed the timestamps or something on this. So that rebuild. Game not balked is a good end state. Yes, it's true. And as we're starting off, hopefully in a non-balked state, I did run this 5 minutes ago, so it's unlikely to have broken since then. But who knows? It's a brave new world and a whole new branch. Right. So let's go into the editor mode, right? I think if we come over to here, I think having like this fan spin round via a coroutine, via an entity to that, right, would be quite cool. And maybe we could even parent somehow, I'm not sure, the light to the entity via an offset. Again, not really thought too much about it, but like I think eventually we're going to want some... And then that would then make that fan then a dynamic entity, right? Because its transform would update per frame, so that means we can then think about how to split these things out. So I think let's kind of keep that in mind. So let's go to scene, right? So easiest starting point is entity handle equals sparse set entity handle type, right? Okay, cool. So we got that's done. Ship it. Oh, my chat doesn't have the Twitch chat. Give me a second. It says it's Twitch is connected. But you're not. Huh. I don't know. Let me try. Maybe. Let me try killing that app. And start again. How strange. And delightfully frustrating. Partially connected. Twitch. So presumably now I have nothing. Yeah, it's not like in Twitch. Hang on, I don't know if I can fix this live. Hold on one moment, caller. Hype train. Well, hype training. Excellent. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it really is. It's really having a moment here. it's connecting services. Event sub connecting. Oh yeah, you're right. It did, didn't it? Okay. Can you type something now? This is where that's where I fudge the engagement. No, great. Okay. Well, it's just I'll tell you what's strange is that that bar is there now. Okay, fine. It's driven by the streaming chat software I use, and it's accumulating all the chat. I just don't know why it's got something WebSockets, and it just sends it over. Right, okay, well, that's a fun little interlude. Yeah, I can show you it super quick. Yeah, it's a deferred renderer. We've done the light pass. We've done all that. I'm just going back and refactoring how the render is kind of driven, not necessarily the actual render itself, because we're pretty pleased with the render at the moment. It's got most of the things I want. It's got SAO. It's got bloom. It's got dynamic lighting, like contrast. So this is kind of what it looks like. There's the bloom in there. I can't walk in too far because the physics system does not extend very far at the moment, and I'm liable to fall through the floor. And then if you go into the editor, which just basically disables a lot of the post-processing effects, you can see here. That's what it looks like. And then you've got the render targets at the bottom, so you can see the lighting passes can be improved. I think I can. I don't think I need the position one. I think I can reconstruct that from the depth buffer. But for now, it's kind of fine. Indeed, jolt for physics, yes. In fact, I'll prove. There you go. There it goes. So yeah. Okay, right. So entity handle is that. So I'm going to want to store these somewhere. Where is that sparse? Oh, the sparse set is in light data. Sure. Okay, so entities now should really be sparse set entities. So what we'll do is I think we'll just slowly introduce more compiler bugs into the works. Yeah, it's been a massive game changer having that integrated editor. It's really, really nice to adjust stuff as we go along, and we can click and move the entities and add more and draw out physics shapes and move lights around and create lights and tweak them all. So it's quite feature rich at this point, which is nice. Okay, right. So where are we going now? So I guess probably need to go through all the code that uses entities now and have a look at what now no longer works. So this is going to be emplace. Do I not return? I return the handle. Oh, in because they're private, but that also kind of makes them, I guess, associated with the class, but a more stricter subset. How's this going to work? Because I have to copy this constructs a new entity. So this will call the entity copy constructor. I really hate this cache. I need to get rid of this at some point, but that's too much to do in one change. So this will be new entity. That'll be const new entity handle, and then we can do auto new entity equals star entities new entity handle. That's spelled wrong. Yeah. I'm getting there. Okay, something like that. It's that type. Which will be object backing the pointer will be destroyed. But surely that gets me an optional reference. I just why is that? Pretty sure that's fine. Because that will return me a optional ref. So if I dereference that, I should just get the reference. If I dereference the optional, I should get the reference out. And then through reference collapsing, that should just be a reference to the original object. I'll have to see what happens there. Yeah, I don't really understand that. Okay, fine, that's fine. Oh, well, it's not, but we'll see what happens. Okay, right, so that's that, and then so this is the intersect ray is going to go away eventually as well because I'm going to move all that into Jolt, but for now I think it's fine. I'm making a game without an engine, but I'm kind of not remaking an engine. Or if you really want to think about it, it's an engine that can only make one game, and that's this game. So that's entity. So that becomes const entity handle, and then we should be able to do the same, right? We should be able to do auto entity. I suppose actually we don't have to dereference. I just realized actually, hang on. Where was that previous change I made? Here we could just get the optional reference out, right? And then just assume it's legit because I've literally just added it and it's all single threaded. And just do that. I think that's better. Non-const value referenced. Non-const L value referenced. It doesn't like returning. Why does it? I guess it is a PR value, so this will return a PR value, which means it can't bind to a non-const for the lifetime. But can I do that? That will work, but it feels weird. But I guess it's just the optional, so that. Who knows? Who knows? C++ man. Yeah, basically it was. I guess it will. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. What is this? I thought this should return by value. It is auto. Yeah, this is gonna. Well, this is gonna return a PR. Well, sorry, it's not. It doesn't return a PR value. The evaluation of the expression is a PR value. That is the value category of that expression. Which should materialize a value, a temporary. Oh, I know what the issue is. I think I just want to take it by value, right? Yes, you're right. I'm taking a reference to the optional. I'm forcing the reference there, which is why and you cannot bind a temporary to a non-const L value reference because you don't get the lifetime extension rules then. Got there in the end. Right. But can I call mutating members through the const optional? We'll see. Might have to drop that const. Anyway, sorry, apologies. Got there in the end. So I want to do, but because the object itself is cheap to copy because it's effectively just an optional pointer. Yes, I can take it by value. That's fine. Sorry, it's been a while since I've looked at this code. Entities, entity handle. Yeah, I don't have anything better than just test it and like basically sort of do this manual integration and systems testing. I don't really have a better way than that. I think something controlled input replay with screenshots, something plus AI, maybe. I don't really know. I don't really have a better answer to that. But for what we're doing now, I'll just build it and run it and hope for the best. Yeah, I can't use RenderDoc, unfortunately. Which is why I had to basically build my own RenderDoc Lite in the debug UI. So that goes that. Okay, fine. So entity these. Because RenderDoc does not support bindless textures in OpenGL, because it's technically considered an extension, even though basically everyone who supports 4.6, every vendor that has 4.6 supports includes it. It never technically made it into core, so the RenderDoc maintainers say they will only maintain the core OpenGL spec, which is, I get it. It's just a little bit annoying because basically every GPU supports it, so I'm kind of out of luck on that. So create entity, so this should just become in place. Const new entity handle, and then we should be able to do, I might just see if I can just inline this because it's easier. Entities new entity handle set transform. Ooh, what does this now return? This must have to return the entity handle. So that's, our change is now going to leak out of this class, which is exciting. Maybe I just, like, I've spoken at length about this. I just don't think I need Vulkan. I don't think I need the heartache from using Vulkan either. So this all looks pretty dandy. So what does entities now return? I guess that returns whatever the sparse set. Can I get all the handles from sparse? Does that just return handles, or does it return data? Oh, interesting. So basically the sparse set that we've got, right, which allows us to have a handle-based system to contiguous allocated objects. I can return a span over all the entities, a const span, or I can return all the handles. I'm not sure which one I want. I guess it really depends where this is used. If it's just using the renderer, yes, I will update that in a second. If it's just using the renderer, I probably just want the raw data, because it's really wasteful to get the handles. If I guess the point is, if every call to this function resolves every single handle, I may as well just return all the data. And this does return a span, which is interesting. So interesting though, I do care about whether it's const or not, and the underlying sparse set only provides const access. I think we just have to guess, right? Let's return self.entities.data. Let's just see what happens. Cache entity is fine. I hate it, but it will live with it. So here you go. Right, so description. This needs to be entities.data, right? I'm going to go through each of the actual entities, call the description method on it, turn those into a vector, hoist those up to the serializer. Now here, remove now, this becomes entity handle, right? And all this boils down to What does sparse set do on remove? Is it a wide contract or is it a narrow contract? I can't remember. It's a narrow contract, so it expects that handle to exist. Handles are ints, right? So but it's super cheap to copy around. Oh, sorry, I see what you mean. Yes. So I think we just do entities remove entity. Yeah, it's exactly what we do there. Okay, that's fine. So I think update some of these interfaces. So remove becomes handle that. Description's fine. All our options are fine. Cache entity is fine. Entity's fine because it deduces the return type anyway. So this becomes entity handle. Sure. Let's see where the misery is. Okay. There's another entity in one of the structs. There's entity description, which is fine. Oh, here you go. Ah, yes. That's fine. That's the original cache. So that's where you get the cache set of entities from, and that will always exist in its own separate array. And then that's what we kind of pull from. This is because we preload all the. There's another one. Intersection result. Oh, well done. But yeah, because we preload everything into the GPU when it starts, we effectively create a fake like identity entity for everything, and then when we want to add a real entity, we just go into the cache, find it, and then just duplicate it in there, and we only render the second set. It's not great. I don't think I love it, but it kind of works. I need to just sort of probably think a bit harder about what that really means. Just a few errors. Can you not iterate through it? I could have sworn. Oh, there is no begin. Okay, it's not iterable. Iterable. I guess you just call handles. Okay, fine. Don't love it. Not gonna change it. There's another one where should I just be iterating through the... I probably actually do want entity data. I do wonder if I've done this the wrong way around. Wasn't I supposed to start off with render entities rather than entities itself? Wasn't I supposed to start off with using render entity equals sparse set render entity? Was I supposed to start off with that, and now I've done the whole the entity? I'm just trying to think whether I've wasted now half an hour of my life. A bit of an inflection point here. Do I keep going with this, even though it wasn't quite even though it was the second phase of the plan? Or do I just stash it and fix render entity and come back to this? I'm tempted just to stash this and call this my mistake, because we are going to solve these problems anyway. But now I feel like I'm changing two things at once. I really wanted to start from the bottom and go up, rather than sort of start in the middle and go down then up. I think in my hubris, I may have misunderstood. I may have charged off on the wrong path there. Apologies. It's still useful. Let's just stash that. Hang on. How do you stash a single file? Because I want the other two. Ugh, I always forget this. Yeah, we should start off with the plan that I originally envisioned. Git stash single file. I can't seem to get out of this now, which is lovely. Oh, git stash just a single file. Git stash dash dash file name. Git stash source core scene. Okay, nice. Apologies for that. Let's do this how I actually envisioned it then. So who owns? So where do render entities come from? How do they get into the entity themselves? Are they constructed within the entity? Oh, you pass in a description. Okay, so wait, where's this? What? Oh no, wait a minute. That's the outs. That's the deserialization. You pass in the entities here. Okay, fine. So where do you? Create entity. That just comes from the oh, so the cache owns. Yeah, thanks. Okay. So maybe we do need to fix this cache at the same time, because what is the cache of? Maybe this is, maybe I'm getting an idea. I wonder if the cache is literally is the cache just the sparse set of all the render entities, and we don't need all the other entity gubbins around it because we reset that. Okay, right. Maybe this is what we want. So let's go bold. By the way, I think I just need to set expectations now. This is very experimental stream. I have not given any prior thought to this refactor. I'm literally figuring it out as I go along. There is a non-zero chance that I get to the end of the stream and just throw it all away and go, this was a mistake. But we're here, we're having fun. We'll see where we get to. Right, so where's the, what am I doing? Why am I even stupid? Where's the entity cache? Why can't I not find it? There you go. Right. So I think this wants to be. bar set render entity, right? And then that's not really a cache anymore. That is just all the render entity. Yes, because we'll preload all the things that we want to render and just hand out handles to them to the things that we actually do render it. Yes, so we could technically have a static and a dynamic. Oh no, that would still be, yeah, we could have a static and a dynamic entities. We'll get back to that later. Okay. Oh my goodness. That's a lot of people. Hello. From Ryan, hello, if you're here. How's the debugger going? Right, okay, you have joined a very interesting stream because, as I was just explaining, there's a non-zero chance I throw all this work away. It's an explorative, speculative refactor, and I may just throw it away. Okay, so let's let's look where this cache entities comes from. This cache entity here, I think actually needs to be private. I don't think this needs, because we only call it internally, and no one should be mucking around with the cache externally. So I'm tempted just to, I don't really like private members, but this might be a case of just like, because it takes in a string map of, I guess the question now is like, how do we feed this in? Because so here's the rub now. The reason we yes. Right, I'm remembering now. The reason we cache the entity rather than the render entity is because yes. Because a entity could have multiple render entities underneath it, right? So how do we reify that? So I could have a whole bunch of render entities with handles, but when I say to a handle, when I say to I want a new entity with like n handles, how do I know which of those are? Tricksy. Yes, that's the issue now, isn't it? So we could so if we go to main and do cache, we build the entity cache, right? This interesting. This creates the render entity here, okay, right, and then sticks it in this cache, which is just an entity with it, no transformation information. So if we remove this cache, how do we then reify the fact that we might need n of these entities together when we build? Because I don't think a render entity has a name. Maybe I've backed myself into a corner here. I don't know. Does what I'm saying make sense? Parent entity handle on the render. Well, the render entity should be agnostic to the entity that owns it, right? Because in theory, I should be able to say render. These three entities all have the same. When you've got three of the same bits of the level, right? Those three level entities should all reference the same render entity handle or handles. They should only exist once because the render entity is effectively a view into what is in the GPU, right? It's a mesh view, which is like literally just offsets into the global vertex and index buffers, and then bindless handles. I think we might have to have a bit of a rethink of the whole thing. This is probably why we should have started with render entity first, and I think because this is tricky. Okay, let's think about this then. So entity will have a vector of handles, right? Like this will just become this, right? But the question is, like, when I go to the moment when I construct an entity, look here, I give it some number of render entities. Okay, so say I give it, say that, right? If we go over to scene, we do create entity. That looks up by name the entity cache, and each entity in the cache has some number. I think I still need to maintain the lookup. I still think I need to be able to say yes. Okay, so I think here's what we do. I think here's the plan. We have a sparse set of render entity objects, right, which allows us to hand out handles, right, lightweight integer handles, and then the entity can own n0 or more handles. When we go to create entity, I think we maintain a separate mapping of name to a vector of render entity handles. So this entity cache will kind of still exist, but it will be called something slightly different. Does that make? I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my head. So what we have now is a string map, right? Std vector render entity. Look up like render entity lookup. Yeah, it's all driven from main, so yeah, we should be able to reify this, I think. Right, so I basically have the same thing, but I've just removed the word cache, which I'm actually somehow fundamentally happier with, whether that makes sense or not. But I think what we do, yeah, what I didn't like was that we were caching entities and then just copying them back into this here from some rando cache and then resetting all the transformation information, when the only thing we really needed was this. So I think this is better. This is going to be quite a big refactor now just to get this bottom leaf bit done, but that's fine. That's fine. So now when we construct a scene, this becomes, shoot, it's not gonna, yeah, but the problem is now actually thinking about it, if I need to construct this with, so the render entity, right, fine. That can all be put in the sparse set. We'll just transfer, we don't need a const ref, we can just transfer those in. I started the project 49 streams ago. Well, this is the 50th stream in the series, and about 2 a week, so that's 25-ish, so 20 weeks, so about just under half a year ago. Okay, right, I think I'm slowly passing this out. I then need something. Sorry, hang on a minute. No. Sorry. We're going to give it all the render entities, okay, and this is going to take ownership of them within the sparse set, which means we can then hand out handles. And then I want something like string map, the vector with size t, render entity lookup, right? So what that would be is I would stick all these in the sparse set, which allows me to have handles for them. I would then turn this into the lookup where each of these indices, or each of these is an index into here. So I would know that for the string fan, that would be render entities 3 and 4. And then I could just pull out the third and the fourth handle from there. Does that make sense? I am wondering if all this just needs to be hoisted out into like a render entity manager. And then you can just... I think it's a really good question. Like, what does done look like? Done for me is in part, like, I guess just when I no longer have fun on it, which I think we're pretty far away from doing, but that is inevitable. But more realistically, my actual idea of an end goal is like a vertical slice of an FPS game, right? I want all the mechanics in there. So you can walk, you can shoot, you can... there's animated enemies, you can kill them, there's some sort of notion of like health and game state and pause menu, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a game, it has to have all the components of a game, and then at that point I'll wrap it up and move on to the next project. And the next project might be take this and refine it into a game. It might be add multiplayer to the sort of collection of things we have done. I'm really, you know, that's the next thing. I would like something that we can kind of run around and shoot in, basically, and has all the requisite parts. And if it feels good and it's fun, then sure, let's make it a game. No, that's the live service game is the one after is the project is 2028's project. Do I want just like a render entity manager and then stick that in the service locator and then anyone can just query it then? I'm just going to mock that out. Source, graph, core, or graph. Where does render entity currently live, actually? But is that in core? I can't even remember how my own code is. Render entities. Let's do render entity man. I think bundling all this into scene is just making scene more and more complex, and it's making it really hard for me to kind of reason about it. Whereas I do love abstraction. Maybe I'm secretly a Java dev. I do really like C#. Okay, so let's do class render entity. What's one more? Just one more manager class. Just one more manager class. I promise I can stop. I already feel more confident about this just because I think it's going to be easier for us to reason about. Actually, no, what am I doing? Do I have containers? Or is it just utils? What? Where's my sparse in core? Sure. I guess as good a place as any. And then hash include core render entity. And then we can have a sparse set render entity. I'm actually partly considering, again, sorry, this is just going to be very much just a monologue of my continuous stream of my conscious thought. I wonder if I break my usual design pattern and rather than making this fully correct by construction, allow you just to ad hoc add stuff to this. Because normally, if I was declaring a class like this, I'd be like render manager, render entity manager, right? And then inside here, I'd have, like I said, we were doing before, like the vector of entities to put in, the mapping, the stuff like that. But I'm wondering if I just keep that normal and make it just more the fact that you can just kind of add to it as you go along. Because then when we stick it in the service locator, you can pull it out. A sparse set is basically two arrays, right? It is a contiguous array of all the elements you care about, and then it is a second array of handles which represent elements in that array. The idea being basically when we delete an element from that contiguous array, we swap it with the end and pop it off the back, but all the handles maintain the positions to their original entity. So although all the entities have moved, the handles can still resolve back to where they originally were effectively. So it basically it allows us to keep things tight packedly, but also remove them without invalidating references. It's just another layer of abstraction off that. And then the handles are just integers that are super cheap to copy around. So it basically provides like another layer of abstraction over accessing a vector. Okay, so string map. So I think what I want, right? There's a lot of me thinking about what I want, not actually knowing what I want. It's something like string map. So now this can have the using render entity handle equals sparse set render entity handle type, right? And then this can have a vector of render entity handle, and this is like entity groups. Oh well, I don't know what to tell you. I live got a busy household. And then we can do, I guess actually most of this could probably be const expr. Auto add group, and that would be a stud string view name and a stud vector of entity. I'm excited about it, so I understand. Render entity entities. So the idea with this being, right, in fact I don't even like add, I prefer register. So I can basically say here's some actual real render entities and here's how I want to reference them by name. And at any point in time, so if you just have a single entity, it's basically just applying names to entities, to groups of entities, right? So you could just have a single entity with a single name, or we could group them together. So then we could do const expr auto operator the string view the span const render entity handle, something like that. So I can basically say, given this string view, this group name, give me all the handles that are part of that. I think I like that. I don't think we do, because this is kind of, again, like the idea that we just set this up at the beginning of the game when we load everything out and pass all the entities. I can't see a reason why we would ever need to like remove them, because we're not doing streaming assets, right? We're not I'm just trying to think if this is gonna, if I'm gonna. I don't think we need it now, so I'm not going to write it now, basically, because all the static entities will just live there forever, right? If we do want to remove them, then we can add. I think we can add that later, but I don't really want to complicate it too much now. So this then becomes, so we then need to do for const. I don't think I can push a range with the sparse set, can I? I think I have to do const. No, hang on. For auto entity in entities. Entities dot emplace should move entity, right? It doesn't need to be that. Right, so that will stick each of them in and give me back the handle. Okay, fine, hang on. Right, I got it now. I got it. Auto handles equals stood vector render entity handle, right? And then entity handles dot pushback that, and then we can finally do entity groups dot insert or assign, I guess, name stood forward handles oh no, sorry, not stood move. Is that right? So we, to be honest, this feels like it could be a range with a side effect. So let's do auto handles. Not a massive fan of them with side effects, but I think we're fine. Didn't we add a function? Actually, I can't remember. No, I think we've just got, I think we thought about it but never did it, so it's just in place. And the square bracket operator, and then remove size empty handles. Right. Let's do, so auto handles becomes entities stood views transform this auto e return entities dot place stood move. This is just a normal C++, just a normal C++. So that then goes there, stood ranges to stood vector. Why is it not like that? Ranges. There you go. Right. And this just becomes this, which is quite nice. And then here, I'm trying to work out whether I want to make this an error if you ask for it. Like, I think this is a fundamental I think if you ask for a group, like, it makes sense that you could ask for an entity that no longer exists because the game could have deallocated it or removed it, or whatever, especially if we had like streaming assets. I think to ask for a grouping which is set at the construction time of the game, I think that's actually a pretty hard error. I could do, but I think that's going to be a little bit... could I... I was wondering if I could do... No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So actually, what I think I'm going to do is do... auto element equals entity groups dot find name, and we've got heterogeneous lookup, so that's about as fast as it's going to be. If actually no, let's do hash include utils error, right? Ensure element not equal third ranges cend entity groups does not exist, and then we just do return element second. No. Yes, well, get there in the end. Okay, I think that's actually quite nice. I think that's kind of okay. So we can just, as we're going to, as in the startup code, that build cache just becomes build render entity manager, and it just pops all these in one at a time. And then what we can do is we can then go to the service locator and then class render entity manager. All right, don't need to include it. Nope. And then this becomes a tuple of all this. So std unique pointer render entity manager. And then all this stays the same because we just look it up with a little small amount, bit of, it's not even that much for template magic really, just std get. I just make sure I need to make sure I set it at the beginning. So if we go over to main, right, now we're cooking. Hash include core render entity manager. Okay, and then I think what we can do is have build entity cache be build render entity manager, right? And then this returns a std unique pointer of render entity manager. Yes. Okay, fine. So then we do auto rem, sure, equals std make unique of render entity manager, right? And then we just need to figure all this figure all this out, and then do return rem. So entity cache goes away. Pass the config, pull all this stuff out, get the names. So we have the render entities here. So this, yes. Rem register group name std move render entities. Yes. Nice. Okay. And then we can go down here. We can go to where we create our. So where do we do build entity group? I had it then, didn't I? Build entity cache. So here I want to do FPS. I can't remember. Is set service. Set service build render entity manager resource loader. Okay, then this disappears. Sort of, but no. What have I done wrong? Oh yes, hold on. Yes. Sorry, I see. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I missed that. So that becomes. It's not set. It's set all the services, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Fine. So this then becomes build render entity manager resource loader. There we go. Oh, I'm jealous. It's pretty warm here. Right. Okay, so now this goes away. This goes away. I think we can gut a lot of this out of scene now. So that goes away. That goes away. Under we still need to get the entities, but we're not changing the entities. Create entities still stays the same because we're going to give it the name of the. That is the group name now of the thing we want from the. Yes. Okay. So render. We want render. No, we don't want render entities, and we don't want that. Oh, look at all this code we're getting rid of. That can go away. That all goes away. Oh yes, I'm much happier about this. All this rubbish that's gone away. Right, so now we don't need any of this because let's go to, and so it's going to be a bit of a multi-file misery change. Core render entity manager, so that's there. So this becomes render entity handle, render entity transform. I think this name might need to change in the future. We might want to give it, because every time I use the group of render entities like floor A, they're all going to have the same entity name. So that might, I think we might as well change that now, to be honest. So that's going to be. Oh no, hang on, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Entity. So we can still get the handles, still get all that gubbins. I do wonder if this should this serialize? I think the name is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. I think we might eventually want to serialize out the separate entities, but then, or at least keep the group name separate. But again, I'm trying to keep the scope small. So that's that. So this then becomes. I don't think you can kind of use the phrase like C like. And oh, sorry, I'm still you. I can't really advise you because I only really write modern C++. So I I can't really advise you on how to like not use those. Like my main shtick is advising people on how to use them. I'm curious to know your rationale for not wanting to use them though. That's always the interesting conversation for me. This is gonna have to change that in a minute. Render entities, constant render entity handle, that goes like that. Bosh, 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 bosh. Set transform, description, that's fine. Average body. So back to scene. Const auto entity description in. So this is going to go through the serialized entities, right? And so now what we're going to do is going to go. So this is loading them from the scene file. I'm going to get rid of like a lot of this. And do equals entities in place back. So let's do auto rem equals services render entity manager. Core manage manager. Okay. So then we should be able to do in place back is the entity description dot name and then rem dot entity description dot name. I can see where there's going to be an opportunity for splitting out these names at some point. Like I said, then we just set the transform, so that kind of stays the same, which makes sense because we just moved that cache elsewhere, right? And now we just need to be able to way of resolving that. Oh, hang on. Interesting. Interesting. I've just noticed something in my hubris again. I've not actually added a way of resolving the handle back to the entity itself, because this owns the sparse set, right? So this has to have a way. Ooh, do I overload operator square bracket? Is that gross? I think this. Render entity handle. We'll do auto type return because I don't know what's that's going to return. And then we do render entities handle. Right. Oh, is that? Oh, because what? Oh no, hang on. It's because that's manager. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So now we can resolve that. Then we can go here, and then I can just do sits up here. Grab that, and then we can do go through each entity, and then for each render entity. So this is render entity handle, and then we can do auto. Sorry, hang on. Auto render entity equals rem render entity handle. That's just a reference, and then we can do if actually hang on, I think what we can do better is if render, if it exists, we just, if it doesn't exist then something's gone wrong, but I think we're kind of okay for that now. And then render entity .abb, something like that. Okay, so where does this go? Bang. $9,250. Oh yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness. Where even is that? Entity 59. Ah, okay, fine. I know where that is. Entity 59. Create ABB. So this is going to need to do hash include core entity manager handle. And then that'll fold left over those, which would then mean we need to do basically it's got to bring in the service locator again, and then just do auto rem equals service render entity manager, and then I can do which way am I folding this? So it returns an ABB, so I'm folding the entity over the ABB. So auto entity equals rem dot rem-e, not rem. Min is a mistake in that there is min, but it gives you 0, not the smallest float. What do I care? Do I care about whether this exists? I think I might just make this for now on a debug build go bang. Yeah, it will go bang eventually, but that's fine. I think. I think. Do you think it will go bang instantly or just now? Also, that could just be passed by value. Actually, no. We might expect it to be constref. Just leave it as that for now. Sparse was just from the literature that I was reading up. I don't know if it's right or wrong. What was the first error? What was the first error? Description. Mixing declaration and function definition is forbidden. Defined. I feel like I'm missing I'm missing something somewhere. Like this is clearly a syntax error. Also, still got entity cache in there as well. So let's go back to scene. Entity cache. Wait a minute, where was I adding that before? That was there. Okay, this makes sense. So entity cache rem. So this will go away, and then entity cache just becomes push. Oh, wait a minute, don't want that at all. Was it something like add entity? Get rid of that, don't need that. Right, create entity, here we go. Right, so this now becomes auto rem equals service render entity manager. Right, and then this becomes name and then rem name. And then we set the new transform to that, which probably is defaulted anyway now, but oh no, we need to call that because it has to go through and set the... Oh, here's an interesting... So will that... No, that just creates an empty entity with no physics on it. That's fine. Oh, do we need this now? I'm going to leave it in there because obviously was a reason I did it before, but I'm not convinced we need that. But like, I don't want to... Things is absolutely not going to work. Yeah, but should it not be done? Is that not done correct by construction? Because I'm not copying an entity anymore. I'm constructing a new one, right? I don't think you need that. I think actually this just becomes as well. Let's just make it again. Okay, to the top of these, I just want to find the first error because that's normally the one that's most easily addressable. This looks like the renderer, which I was expecting. I don't know if I should just jump to that because I know where that error is, or if I should try and figure out what's going on here. Well, I'm here now, so this entity's a deck. No. Aren't I, every time I create a new one, invalidating all the others? And why did that not happen? Why has that not happened until now? Where do I call create entity? I call it in the debug renderer. I'm really worried this is masking a bug. It goes away with handles anyway, but for now, so this now needs to be the address of that. I'm really shocked we've not hit that. So the issue there is that when you push to a vector, you potentially resize it, which means everything gets reallocated, and it's not guaranteed to go back in the same place, which means technically pushback can invalidate pointers to elements that you've already stored. I guess maybe I was never storing them. I guess nothing was ever using them. Like, where am I storing entities? I'm just looping through them. Oh well, there was some heartache later. Yeah. Okay, command buffer. So this is where this is a good example where there should be a command buffer for static entities that never changes or only changes when you opt into it. And it's because this is probably built every frame, right? I'm not going to do that change now, but we should have two command buffers, one for static and one for dynamic. And then we just build this once, because otherwise we're going to have to now... It just makes this slightly more complicated, because now we have to do core service locator and include core render entity manager. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So now we can do auto rem equals service render entity manager. Get that, and then into that should return the... That'll still return the handle. So each of these is now a handle, right? Which means they can be copied by value, and then we put the capture by reference the rem object, and then we can do auto e equals const auto entity equals rem e, and then this becomes... I'm gonna let this go bang if it's wrong for now. I think like lifetime management of all the handles is a separate piece of work. Oh yeah, well done. That shouldn't be entity, and entity. Do I not let you get rid of entities back anymore? Pretty sure I do. Oh, I might not be able to span of them anymore. Yes, because it's a deck. Interessant. Might have to turn a const ref. Oh, I missed off that. If someone said that, I apologize. I'm sweating. Look at all these beautiful errors. So many goodies in there. All of our worldly problems are encoded somewhere in these error messages. Oh, come on, get to the top. All right. Has no member data. I think it's this entities issue now. Can I... Yeah, I think this now just becomes... I don't think I even... I might still need this to be deducing this, but I think I can just return entities. All right, and that'll be const or... In fact, I think with deducing this, that becomes const if the object itself is const. I think. Possible to say. Okay. I don't want to scroll too far and accidentally overflow. I saw it. I've seen it. Right. Oh, it's a lot of. What is it? Just a lot of this. Oh no, it'd be self, won't it? Yeah. Okay. Then we're getting there. I do think this is a worthwhile refactor, though. I do think this is going to lay the groundwork to make things a little bit easier to work with. My concern is that if we keep kicking this can down the road, it's just going to get harder and harder to refactor. Like, this is already pretty painful, and we've already had an insight into what it's going to look like to refactor entities. So, like, we might need to have an entity manager and just pull everything out of scene entirely. Is invocable. Blah, right. A bit kind of what you not like in transform view. Const entity handle has no member mesh view. Oh, interesting. If I left an E in here somewhere. Oh, don't I have this in two places? Yeah, I remember this. For the scene and for a single entity. So that just loops through render entities itself, and then this becomes like that. It is NDI. We did this, like, this is one of the first things we did. I mean, the best parts of 20 are the big four, although I'll forgive you for not saying modules, is concepts, coroutines, and ranges. Oh, my goodness. Ranges only make things better. You'll never catch me writing a range. That doesn't make sense. Or having that feature in where it doesn't belong. Is invocable command buffer rem is not captured. God damn it! You're so right. But you could. This is the problem with ranges, though, as we're seeing here. The error messages are just a little bit obtuse. Just a little bit obtuse because of the piping nature and the templates. Like, it just builds up those template types, and it's just like. Just the fact that it's requiring new somewhere definitely means I'm trying to construct something I shouldn't be. Yes, indeed. Right, I think we're getting close. Right. Whoa, what is that type? Nice. Insert or assign, is that... Do I need to give it a pair? I thought I gave it the... I suppose I could just use square brackets. I can't remember if you get heterogeneous lookup on square brackets. You give it the key and then the object, yeah. Oh, the object itself, not... Okay, maybe my... Oh no, it's... That should work. What's the actual error? Can you tell me what the actual issue you're facing is, please? I don't want all the stuff you've tried. Template argument deduction substitution failed. Yes, but why? Why did you fail? That's doing something deck. You just get used to it. See here. The attribute you care about is only about halfway through. So entities in place, entity description name, rem, entity description name, 214. Right, so entities. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, does it? What's entity? This takes a name and a transform. Is it because I've not put the transform in? Which means actually I should be able to then do entity description dot transform and drop that. Also, what does the render entity manager return? Is it a span? I don't know if it's going to be able to it should construct the vector from that, but I got a horrible feeling it's not. Yeah, a lot of it is just unfortunate. It's just hard. It's yeah, just having done this loads of times, just the misery kind of embeds itself. And you can't get used to that. I can just see a lot of this is template deduction issues. Like I can see here, this is going to be the thing in that there. This here is an issue I know I need to fix elsewhere, but I was trying to fix them one by one rather than jumping around. All right. Why does it not like entity? So this is actually in the entity manager now. 35. Why is it not like this? It doesn't need to be paired though, because hang on, I don't think I have my browser tab set up. Give me a second. Let me see if this works. Brilliant. Great. Hang on. Hello. If you do insert or assign, which does have heterogeneous lookup because it's the key. Oh no. Yes, because it's here, templated on the K. It's just insert assign K and then the object that you would want to insert. So my object is a vector of render entity handles. This is an object of render entity handles. So there's no reason why this shouldn't get forwarded along and put there. And name is string name, which is fine because my heterogeneous lookup class works for that. So I don't understand. Well, I want some more information. Here you go. Argument. Could not convert. Expression error. Expression error? Is this? Oh, wait a minute. This is the call stack, isn't it? So it's required from. So I don't think this is the issue because this is where it's requiring it from. Name. Why is this on registered? Why is this registered group? 35. Where's the call site for this? I don't understand why it's requiring from here. Why is entities in place back? This is the only place I use the rem. And that has a... What is... Why is that coming to register group? That's nowhere... This is creating a new entity. Yeah, but it should... It's creating a new entity, but it should be reusing existing render entities, right? Like this is saying I want to create a new entity. So if you go to entity, this is saying I want a vector of render. Oh, does it return a span? Yeah. Oh, is that all right? Is that okay? I wonder if that should just return by value, just the elements. Do you know what I mean? Like, should that just be... Because you always... I can't see when you're ever going to want to iterate through them and not take a copy of them. I think that... I'm not a massive fan of that, but I think in this case, this might actually be the right answer. Oh, for fuck's sake, I'll start keepsake again. The game is haunting me. Well, it's not any better, so it clearly wasn't that. It is near Vim. Oh, at the moment, it's just a hot mess. Right. I don't understand this, but what I might do is I might just cheat. I think because this won't be using perfect forwarding, the errors should, in theory, be a little bit clearer. Just an ill-fated refactor, I'm afraid. Will be pretty hard cut off at probably 10 tonight, so we'll just see how much we can get done. And then just to fix this other error here, just so it's... we don't have to keep scrolling through it. Oh, what was that? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Required from here. No matching function called to construct entity sparse set. Oh, is that because that is missing the transform as well? Should this also have transform? LMs are pretty good at C++ errors. So give it a go. Just pipe. I'm pretty sure I've seen someone just take the output of GC and just pipe it straight into a command line LLM tool before. Like loop until this goes away. Man, this construct act nonsense is really starting to do my head in. That's the renderer, so that's the bug I want. It's still... Why is... I really don't understand this. What am I missing? Entities in place back, name, vector of render entities, which we now definitely have because I've changed the type. We should just... Like, what are you not liking? No, I mean, the whole point of in place back, though, is you should take each individual argument and force it. Otherwise, I could just... I suppose we could... What you are right, though, is that we should be able to just do... It will give us a nicer error message to do that. Oh, but then you don't get the return value, so that's not going to work for us. So then we would have to do... Because pushback doesn't return anything, so then we have to return the address of entity and entities dot back. That's all I need. We'll get through this. I think this is good. All this work is to make our lives easier. Right. Pushback. Here we go. No matching function call to stud deck entities pushback. I feel like this is not matching the constructor. I'm almost convinced of it. So let's go to entity. Then maybe it doesn't like the name. Like, I'm pretty... I'm pretty sure I've got all those types, right? There's a string view, but I would expect... is it something really gross like that? I think it was that. Why is it now not like this? Oh my goodness. Well, hang on, because we're still back to the... We're assuming a deterministic compilation through translation units. Like, it's now no longer at the top, which does assume it's disappeared. Yeah, I think I do want to undo that and go back to what I had before because it was nicer. So what's this next error then? It still doesn't like this. Why does it not like this? Move handles. Can you just give me the types? It cannot convert a basic string view to a hash table basic string. Is it the same issue? Am I being... No. That's bullshit because it has heterogeneous lookup. I keep saying that phrase because it makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. Like it's literally there. Separate K class. Well, no, because the whole point, right? So if you go to entity groups, this is a string map, right, which we wrote, which has is transparent hash a function which takes a string view. I mean, really, if this doesn't work, if this works, then we've not implemented our class correctly. Oh, do we need to provide a custom equality operator? Ice? No, just long time. Yeah, okay, fine. I've just not implemented the that heterogeneous lookup quickly. I suspect I'm missing a custom equality class that takes the different types. It's almost certainly the case. That's fine. Fix that later. What's the next error? Renderer. It's got nothing to do with the lifetime of the object or where it's allocated. It's purely the fact that I've just not constructed that particular type correctly. As in like formulated it, not constructed it, you know what I mean? I've not written it correctly. Renderer. I think I might just jump to where I know the issue is in renderer. That's really annoying, that. Okay, fine. So the renderer is here. So it's the same thing. I need to do auto rem equal. Oh, actually, I probably don't even have these added. Service locator. That should include. Rem equals service. Team manager. Manager. Like that. And then this will take. What am I doing here? So I take the top for each entity, I then append range all the render entities converted into this. Yeah, again, this is. Does this then go into the command buffer? Why have I got to do this? What's this? What's the object data buffer? Why does that differ to the... Yeah, but why is it different to the... Why have I got to put this as well as the... Oh, this is the list of... Why is this different to the list of render commands? Or is this just everything... Is this the index? Is this the global array? Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. So again, we shouldn't be doing this loads and loads of times, but it's fine. Auto sub entity equals e dot. Sorry, rem e. And e. Ugh. Nope. Did you undo what you did earlier to make it return my value? Can't remember. Oh, I think we're getting less errors. He says. Post render, debug renderer. Okay, fine. I'm just going for the bottom up now because I'm gonna have to fix all these anyway. Enter. I wonder if scene should provide some sort of enumerator for these. Core render entity manager. Service render entity manager. And then do what? Auto entity equals rem e. And then what? Do something like render entities. Where else do we do this? Here. This is oh, is that already just declared there forevermore? So can I just do handle and do auto render entity equals rem handle, and then do render entity cf dot render entity arrow. Oh, it's so close. Literally with like the last error. And that is in renderer 152. This is probably like, it's almost certainly something like that is now fundamentally incompatible with our refactor, and it's going to make me revert the whole thing because it's the last one. Create a sprite, okay. That's got to become a... Okay, I think... Well, no, because none of this isn't going to be... This is going to be constructing a render entity, not a handle. So it does need a transform on the end. But this, everything in between these curly braces needs to be hoisted out. I'm actually probably going to wrap that here. My brain is absolutely dead. I know what I need to do. I think it's a little bit more nuanced. And if I'm being honest, like it's been a long day, and I'm absolutely boiling. So I think I'm actually gonna. I know it's a little bit anticlimactic because we're very close, but I really cannot focus on this anymore. Apologies. I think I know what I need to do. I think basically that. We need to pre-prepare the sprite render entity group in main when we build the main entity cache. But I know that'll happen. And something else won't work, and something else won't work. And then I think next stream, basically what we'll do is we'll finish this off, and then we'll have a go at maybe doing the entity refactor as well. I think just a couple of streams on this will be in a pretty good place. I'm just worried I'm just going to get progressively worse and be less and less entertaining. Thank you very much for spending your evening with me, or your day with me, depending on what time zone you're in. Very much, as always, I very much appreciate it. I think we got quite a lot done today, more than I thought we were going to, but maybe not as much as I was hoping we would after we get started. But regardless, come on to Discord. It's good fun. I'm working on the next video, hopefully soon. I basically missed the window for doing a video in June, but it is what it is. Again, I've just been super busy and it's been so hot. Thank you very much. I will see you all anon.